Hello and welcome to another episode of Momento Malum today. The region of Lithuania and other closely related regions are prone to very cold winters and very unstable climate conditions. As a consequence, in fruit crops and other horticultural crops, cold injury is one of the major factors within Lithuanian agriculture in terms of abiotic stresses within such climates. The researcher Dr. Rugienius of the Institute of Horticulture of the Lithuanian Research Center for Agriculture and Forestry did an in vitro experiment where he used tissue cultured samples of apple and pear to see how well they can handle cold damage. The use of in vitro studies to determine cold hardness will accomplish two items de jure. It will create a quicker way of evaluating for cold hardness within the framework of screening for new cultivars. It will also allow for improved methodologies for preserving tissue culture samples in cryogenic stasis. The domesticated apple and pear are common trees cultivated in Lithuania and its surrounding regions, with the Lithuanian Research Center for Agriculture and Forestry maintaining over 1,000 cultivars of both. Many of these cultivars are susceptible to cold damage, as well as diseases such as fire blight. To preserve the genetic material, studies are being done to preserve the plants in tissue culture form through the use of cryogenic preservation. On a side note, this is not uncommon. In Canada, the Grip Institute can store and has stored a great many different species and cultivars of different fruit and native plant accessions. With this in place, it is hoped that an understanding of the cold acclimation period required for the trees to become fully acclimatized to the cold, the absolute cold hardness of the different cultivars and species being tested will be known. And it's also hoped that a means of creating proper protocols for cryopreservation of apples and pears will also be created. Various cultivars and species were tested out to determine how well they can tolerate cold within an in vitro setting. Names of these cultivars can be seen on screen right now. Micropropagated shoots were cultivated in the usual Murashake and Shug medium and were cold acclimated for 7, 14, 28, and 56 days, and the temperature was gradually dropped by 1 degree Celsius per hour within a controlled environment. After 21 days, the temperature point for each acclimation period and cultivar would be determined by measuring the ion leakage. This process was repeated 10 times, and the mean and SEM were calculated, the latter being the standard error of the mean. Hello, I just want to let you know, if you want to fund this channel, you can do so on the platforms seen in the description below. What was found was that the crabapple species, Malus prunifolia, was the most winter hardy of the bunch. The information can be seen on screen right now. Amongst the cultivated apples, the Lithuanian cultivar Oxys was the second most cold hardy cultivar within the list when it comes to apple genotypes. The other four were tied for third place in terms of cold hardiness, but in terms of acclimation, there's a big difference. Different cultivars and species require different levels of acclimation, and in general, the longer the acclimation, the more durable the plants are. Amongst these cultivars, the species Malus platycarpa and the cultivar Papiarensis require 56 days of acclimation to become fully cold hardy. Under proper cold acclimatization, the crabapple Malus platycarpa is the most cold hardy cultivar. Oxys and Papiarensis are also extremely cold hardy under proper acclimatization conditions. Malus prunifolia and Gala also made improvements in cold hardness when given a long acclimatization period, although the hardiness was lesser than most of the native Lithuanian cultivars and that extremely hardy crabapple species. Malus prunifolia showed the least amount of change in cold hardness due to acclimatization, although that species still remains one of the most cold hardy species within the list, possibly indicating a different genetic mechanism for achieving cold hardness. When it comes to pears, durability remains relatively similar across all specimens in terms of cold hardness, and the effects of acclimatization, and for all cultivars, the acclimatization of 56 days increases the cold hardness by a considerable margin, albeit to a lesser extent than apples. Based on the information gathered by this researcher, most likely scenarios that somewhere between 28 and 56 days, with 56 days being ideal, is the best case scenario for cold acclimatization to minimize cold damage. And that will covers everything. Thank you for watching.